Hello, Liverpool fans. Welcome to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. Coach Ralph and I are excited to bring you this podcast. From games to players to club news, we cover everything LFC. You can find us on every platform and YouTube. Please take a second to follow or subscribe to the podcast. That way, you know when the latest podcast is up. Thank you for listening, and now on to the show. Hey, welcome everybody to the Liverpool Reaction. I'm joined by my co-host, Coach Ralph. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Monday morning's always good after a win, isn't it, Salim? So
Yeah,
feeling good.
I'm your other coach, your other co-host, Salim. Maybe one day I'll be a coach. I don't know. Coach, 2 wins this past week after the disappointment at Nottingham Forest. Let's tackle the Champions League game at the San Siro versus AC Milan, a 3-1 victory. We had Pulisic score a goal in the 3rd minute, and then it was all Liverpool the rest of the way with Konate flying high and scoring a header. Then Virgil van Dijk scoring a header from Ibu was from Trent, and then Virgil from Tsimikas on a corner. And then in the 67th, Gakpo makes a rampaging run down the left and crosses it to Szoboszlai to get on the score sheet. We got a debut from Chiesa, even though it was just a few minutes. Salah hits the crossbar a couple times, but I think the overall theme was a pretty dominant victory by Liverpool.
Oh, it was. Liverpool played well on the night. I always like to see American players do well, but Christian Pulisic scoring after 3 minutes maybe wasn't in my thoughts and the thoughts of many fans, I'm sure. And just thinking about the goal, he took it well, but he was allowed to run an awful long way before getting off his shot. So something was maybe out of order defensively at that point. However, having said that, the team didn't seem to break stride too much, and they kind of got it together and came on top. You know, like they got on top of Milan, and they ran out very easy winners in the end, didn't they?
Yeah, I think Tsimikas had vacated the space and got caught up the field. But, it was... If somebody from Milan has to score, I guess, if it's Pulisic, it's not the end of the world, right? Because I'd like to see American players do well as well.
I would say.
The 2 goals from the center backs, from Konate and Virgil, they were pretty easy, although both of them, especially Konate, really elevated to get these goals. But I'm noticing something within corner kicks lately. It even happened on Sunday in the Arsenal-Manchester City game, that the new kind of thing to do in corner kicks is to literally crowd the goalie and make that 6-yard box really hard to navigate.
Well, actually, that is a throwback. That's a throwback to the Charlie Hughes days in English football, the Wimbledon days, when they would send in these vicious in-swinging corners on top of the goalkeeper. So I guess it's back in fashion again.
Yeah. Coach, you know, I think the Milan goalie, you know, didn't cover himself in glory either. He was really kind of glued to his line on both those goals. But the ball, you know, the balls that were swung into the box, one was from a free kick on the left that Trent put in, and then the other one was a corner kick from Tsimikas. And the balls coming in are really, really high quality balls in order to be able to get your header on it. And they were both in swingers. So I remember the days when you were coaching us back in, a long time ago, and you would constantly tell us any in-swinging free kick or corner from kind of the byline area, it doesn't have to go off your head to go in. It just has to get a deflection, and 9 times out of 10, it just kind of careens towards the goal. It seems like Liverpool is really doing that. But my question with this is, why even do an outswinger? What's the point of an outswinger then if in-swingers are so deadly?
Well, I think that what happens is all these things are kind of in vogue because another thing is short corners. So we will get a rash of these in-swingers, and then teams will work out a way to defend them, and then they don't become quite as effective because it's predictable after a while. So, actually, it's the same with free kicks as well. I think it's been well documented that there aren't as many goals now scored from free kicks because teams have worked out ways to nullify them, whether it's by the positioning of players. I mean, even the ball that goes under the wall, you've got the player lying down.
Right.
Coaches will find ways to nullify these things. So the in-swinger is a little bit back in vogue, and maybe it's got something to do with some of the goalkeepers maybe aren't so hot on taking them. I think the Tottenham goalkeeper has been identified as somebody that's suspect for an in-swinging corner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's what the vogue is now. Teams will find a way to nullify it, and then for a while something else will be in fashion, as it were. So I do believe, or I think I read somewhere that Slot has had the team working a lot on restarts, whether it's corner kicks, free kicks, whatever. And so you could say that the Milan game showed that his practices have borne some fruit. I think the other side of the coin you kind of touched upon was Milan aren't particularly strong at coping with them. So it's kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other type of situation. But having said that, the manager will be pleased to see that his work has borne some fruit, and Liverpool scored a couple of goals.
Yeah, and the third goal, Cody Gakpo overall, I think, had a very good game, and his marauding run down the left, I mean, pretty much put it on a plate to 2 guys. Szoboszlai kind of got his shin on it, didn't get the best connection, but it did go in, and Salah was right behind him too. So Cody Gakpo is right on Luis Diaz's heels for that left-sided spot, but Luis Diaz is on fire right now. We'll definitely get to the Bournemouth game here in a second, but there's some details within the game that I found interesting. I found interesting that 4-2-4 press that Ipswich Town kind of performed versus Liverpool to mass effect in the first half. I noticed Milan was doing that as well, and I'm kind of seeing it across the game a little bit more. So as an interesting tactic, did you notice that?
I can't say that I did. I felt it was more evident in the Ipswich game, maybe because it's first game of the season, and you kind of focused on, hey, what is new? I didn't think Milan did it particularly effectively, the pressing, and Liverpool basically found it easy to work their way out.
Yeah, they definitely did. I think the, Gravenberch has been unbelievable, 5-6 games into the season, and he seems to be understanding what Slot wants and how quickly to get through the midfield, because it just seems like a flick here, or a quick pass here, or a one touch moving forward, and all of a sudden that press is broken and we're running down towards the opposing goal, 3v2, 4v3, 4v4 even, and it's looking like the midfield is really starting to settle in. Coach, what can we say about Gravenberch? He's been so good, and after 1 year at Bayern where he wasn't played very much, and just maybe tactically it wasn't the right coach and team for him, then to moving to Liverpool last year, and not, I don't think he didn't play a lot, but he was not very effective. But all of a sudden, under this new system and this new coach, he is extremely effective. And you could kind of say the Zubamendi deal that did not go through is kind of a blessing in disguise here.
Maybe, but I still feel that we need a little more time to kind of assess the Gravenberch situation. He's playing well. I mean, there's no question about it. He's had a run in the team. He's full of confidence, and that's reflected in the level of his performances. Don't think he's been really tested yet from a defensive point of view. And I just got a sense at the weekend with the Bournemouth game. Bournemouth looked good going forward. And I think that they gave Liverpool a test or two. And I just wonder whether a player who's more in the role of a Haman, Mascherano, Fabinho is kind of needed in those games to screen the defence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure. As I say, I need to see more of Gravenberch play and see him in that kind of a situation, because in some ways, looking at him in terms of his build and what he offers, looks to me like he could play the Szoboszlai role right now. So we don't know, or I certainly don't know what the long-term situation is. It's looking good right now, but I think that once we get to Christmas time and everything, and they've had a good run of games, including Champions League, they'll have played teams like Real Madrid, Manchester City, Arsenal. By that time, we will have a pretty clear picture of the current midfield, which seems to be Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai. We'll have a clearer picture of how they stack up against that level of team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Arne Slot as well. I mean, I don't know Zubamendi well as a player. Is he a Rodri clone? I don't know. Or was he just somebody that deputized for Rodri? He has similarities. He was a number 6. I really can't say. What I have read about him was that he was going to keep in possession, which is something that Slot is interested in, and maybe why he doesn't favour Endo so highly. Yeah, we have to wait and see. And of course, the Zubamendi thing keeps coming back. And I don't know whether it's newspaper talk, as they used to say, or whether there's any fact in it.
Yeah, that story that keeps popping up is interesting, almost that he wishes he made the move. And it's kind of interesting because Real Sociedad, really kind of put the pressure on him to stay. At least that's, the narrative that we were hearing. Even though Zubamendi had said that, he's open to the move to Liverpool. But regardless, it is what it is. Coached a good start to the Champions League, 3 points, good performance. From a standpoint of player performances, is there maybe a handful of people that caught your eye that played well? And on the other side, is there somebody or a player or two that maybe could have played better?
Well, I think Gakpo, you mentioned, I thought he was probably the standout player on the night. I thought Jota was pretty anonymous, and that might be why Nunez was given a run at the weekend, because it came up off the back of the Forest game, which was another game that he didn't really seem to get involved in as much as we would like. So he might be on the other side of the coin, but overall, as we noted earlier, it was a comfortable victory for Liverpool because going to San Siro is never easy. But yet, Milan, after that opening salvo, didn't really cause Liverpool much of a problem.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're going to get to Jota a little bit later, a little bit more in depth. I understand what you're saying, and I think it's going to reflect in the next kind of 2-3 starting lineups. The man of the match, you'd say, is Gakpo?
I would put Gakpo for Milan, yes.
Yeah, I thought he was good. I thought Gravenberch was really good. Obviously, getting goals from 3 players that are not in our front line was encouraging as well, too, because we can't just have them scoring the goals. We need to chip in whenever we can. And I liked how that came to fruition. And it's nice to see Szoboszlai get off the schneid, so to speak, because he's working his socks off. He's not, I'm not sure if the final iteration of this lineup includes him as the number 10, but it was nice to see him get off the schneid. And he's similar to Darwin from a standpoint of it. There's work right there. He runs hard. He runs a lot. I think several of the games he was the player who's ran the most. So that's encouraging from a standpoint of that we have a player that is going to work his socks off. So that's really, really good to see. Coach, Bournemouth, you mentioned that Bournemouth did give us some headaches, and I thought Semenya was fantastic, even though he had a goal disallowed, but he was getting shots off. He was causing havoc. I was really impressed with him as a player. However, the goal was disallowed due to offsides, and then Luis Diaz made a mockery of Kepa. Kepa came out for no reason on a long ball from Konate, and Luis Diaz ran right in front of him, trapped the ball, 2 touches, and then puts it in the back of the net. Coach, what is different about Luis Diaz this year that he's a little bit more clinical in front of goal? I would say the second goal was even maybe a little bit fortunate. He went through the wickets of the goalie, but shot it right at him, but went right through his legs and got his second goal. But what is it about Lucho that is it the coach telling him, hey, I want you to be a little bit more direct, a little bit more greedy in front of goal? What do you think that is? Because he's playing excellent.
Well, it's tough to put your finger on it, because if you look at his career, both at Liverpool and prior to coming to Liverpool, I would class him as a steady goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe he's ever been prolific, but he's somebody that, say, when he plays for Colombia, that they look to score. But again, I don't think Colombia scores a lot of goals overall. So I think he's a steady goal scorer, and I think he's just going through a patch. Players up top, they go through patches when they score and when they don't score as much. And I think he's on a purple patch right now, to a point where I'm thinking, should I put him in my fantasy team? But then I think, well, I'll put him in and he'll stop scoring.
Right, that's how it works, right?
Yeah. So he can score goals. I think that's the big thing, but I'm not convinced he'll ever be a prolific goal scorer. And I think that right now that we have to enjoy the fact that he is getting a few. And the first goal, you are entirely correct. God knows what Kepa was doing out there. But first of all, a fantastic piece of skill to take that ball down, and then so quickly to turn and absolutely take the goalkeeper out of the game. And yeah, I mean, it was a good finish. Bad from a Bournemouth point of view, because Kepa shouldn't be there. But you've got to give credit to Diaz in as much as he gets the ball, he turns and he sticks it in. So great goal, Luis Diaz.
Yeah, the second goal was nice as well. It was a kind of a breakaway. Trent has the ball coming down the right side and then kind of cutting into the middle. And Szoboszlai, I wouldn't call it a dummy, but realizes that the pass from Trent was going to Luis Diaz and not to him, and just kind of hopped out of the way. And then Diaz scores for his second. It was really comforting to see that within an 11-minute span and 2 minutes between Luis Diaz's goals, that all of a sudden the game was done and dusted, and we can't go on and keep talking without talking about Darwin's goal. I mean, what a beauty.
Yeah, yeah. Darwin will be very relieved to have scored that goal.
He looked relieved too.
And I think the fan base as well. You know, it's going to be intriguing to see what happens this week, because I think he'll make a lot of changes for the League Cup tie against West Ham. And does he leave Darwin Nunez in or not? To leave him in makes sense from the point of view of giving him game time and allowing him to build up a rhythm, because I would have to believe that he will be the starting centre forward next week when they go down to, I believe it's Wolves they play next week.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be intriguing, as I say, to see what the manager does there.
You know, that whole kind of passage of play, Konate has the ball in the back, plays not a long ball, but a ball kind of past the midfield of Bournemouth, and what a first flick from Darwin to get it to Mo Salah, and then turns and goes it on a give and go, and then that cut back. I mean, when he cut it back to his left foot, he had so much space. Granted, the shot was fantastic, but the space he created off that, I'm not sure if it's necessarily the move he made or just that Bournemouth defenders overall were giving kind of a lot of space within the 6 or within the 18-yard box. But this kind of goes to the Jota thing that you were mentioning. You know, Jota started the first couple games. He scored a goal. He's missed a couple. I think he's got an assist or two. But something just doesn't feel right from he hasn't really set the world on fire. And I think this is where Darwin steps in. But we also know what Darwin can do, both good and bad. Is it time for Darwin to, because you mentioned it's interesting what'll happen against West Ham in the League Cup, but you anticipate him starting for at Wolves?
I'd have thought so. I mean, for me, whilst we might both agree that Jota is probably the most clinical finisher that Liverpool have, he seems to do better when he comes on as a sub. He seems to do better, maybe because the game is more open at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've always felt about Jota. And over a 60-game season, you can certainly rotate him so he gets a certain amount of starting games. But for me, in the big game, he's more effective coming off the bench. And I don't know whether the stats bear that out, but it's just the impression I have.
Yeah, and usually his XG is low. His expected goals are low, but he converts a lot of them. So he always has a positive XG, which is interesting. Coach Chiesa coming off the bench, nice cameo. I thought with his first touch he was going to score when he hit that volley, and then hit the post, although he was offsides. Anything to take away from Chiesa kind of coming in is pretty encouraging, I would say.
Well, Chiesa's a very good player, as we all know. The question marks are kind of, okay, Liverpool have him and they got him on the cheap. Is it something to do with the fact that he has a recurring injury, or they feel that he's past his best? These are all factors that need to be determined. So what does the manager do next with him? Will he start him against West Ham in the League Cup? Possibly, although I think logically, I think the next step is to keep giving him slightly more game time, because he hasn't played for a long time, has he, Chiesa?
Well, he played last year at Juventus, and he got a couple knocks here and there, but I think he played 30 games in Serie A. So The big injury that you're referring to is the knee injury, but I think he's recovered relatively well for it, and I think the injury moniker that's kind of attached to him, I'm not sure that it's really entirely accurate.
I thought he had a more minor injury towards the end of last season at Juventus. I'm not sure on that, and so he certainly didn't play for them in pre-season. So that might be because they basically were just wanting to sell him. So he's out of match practice and he's maybe not match fit yet.
Mm-hmm.
So logically, the manager might want to. I mean, like, he only gave him minutes against Milan. What did he get against Bournemouth? It was like 20 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So he might want to give 30, 35 minutes against West Ham and start to build up his game fitness.
Okay, so that's a logical next step, is about a half hour. You don't think he pushes him to 60 minutes, starts him, and then pulls him on to the 60th?
If he decides to do the 60 minutes, I mean, I'm not there in training every day. The manager will do that if he feels that Chiesa is ready to do that. Mm-hmm. So that we don't know. But if he starts him against West Ham, then I think the manager expects him to go for at least an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Any details within the game that stood out to you? I thought Bournemouth looked really, really threatening, and you mentioned that as well. I thought Semenya was a handful. I didn't realize how big he was. And although Solanke moved to Tottenham, Bournemouth seems to be pretty threatening without him.
Well, Semenya's a player that I kind of picked out a long time ago, and he's dangerous. And I think Liverpool were fortunate with that goal that was disallowed because, I mean, I come from a generation whereby the toenail goal being disallowed. I mean, let's just put it like this: if that was a Liverpool goal that was disallowed in the same set of circumstances, I would not be happy,
right?
Because it's so negligible. But I guess for the younger people now who are growing up with the game in the VAR era, that will be natural for them. I'm afraid old timers like myself, we don't like to see goals like that disallowed. But so I think the Liverpool got away with something there. I think they got away with something, and Bournemouth did look threatening. Liverpool did look shaky on one or two occasions. I mean, teams, even if they're not a great team, will always create a chance or two against you. And I think from a Liverpool point of view, if you look at the Bournemouth game, you can say, well, Bournemouth tested Liverpool to a good degree. I believe they had as many shots as Liverpool. I think they had slightly less on target. So compared to the week before against Nottingham Forest, they were much more of an offensive threat consistently through the game. And so Liverpool were tested at the back. But I feel that if it's a club that's maybe a notch above a Bournemouth, even though they're a talented side, I think Liverpool could find it harder defensively. That is just a gut feeling that I have at this particular point.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, you are right. There were 19 shot attempts by both teams. Liverpool had 13 on target, and Bournemouth had 6. Mm-hmm. Coach, as far as man of the match or some player performances, Gravenberch again stood out, but Diaz obviously stood out. Anybody else that come to mind that maybe stood out for you? I mean, Salah hit the crossbar a couple times against AC Milan and had some opportunities, but didn't get one over the line. But as far as details, what did you see?
I thought Salah actually was slightly off colour against Bournemouth, because when you think of the second half, Liverpool had plenty of opportunities in terms of getting into very good positions. And I think oftentimes when he went to Salah, it didn't quite work out. So he was a little off colour, I thought, because really they should have added to their tally in the second half.
Uh-huh.
But they didn't. They didn't. So probably won't be as concerning because they were already 3 goals for the good. But,
Yes.
I would be slightly concerned about that, but I also know that when a team is winning comfortably, that you're not quite as focused, as it were, when it comes to some of these opportunities.
Yeah, it's much more forgiving when you're winning and you miss chances versus when you need them and you miss chances. So
right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, the defense seems to be, this is what, the third clean sheet, fourth clean sheet in the league. So the defense seems to be having a more sturdy effect, and because of the heavy metal that Klopp used to have, we used to always give up chances, like a lot better chances than I think we are giving up now. Even though, like you mentioned, even teams that aren't as talented create chances. What do you think? Is it a little bit of are they fortunate? Is it a bit of is it better defending? Is it tactics? What's causing these clean sheets in your mind?
Well, there's a little bit of everything. I think one thing that I sense is that the manager and the team are looking to get clean sheets. There was that one incident in the second half. I think it followed a corner where Kelleher poured the ball off the line, and so that showed great determination defensively. From a Bournemouth point of view, they really should have scored, but Kelleher and the men around him were pretty determined to make sure that the clean sheet stood. So I guess you got to give him credit for that.
Right. Yeah. That was a great save. I think it kind of deflected off of Trent and was definitely heading goal bound. Coach, next week, we have West Ham. I completely agree with you. It's time to, really switch things around and give other players game time. It's a shame that Harvey got hurt, and that he won't be able to play in this game. I think he probably would have played in the Milan or the Bournemouth game, but it is what it is. Coach, the next run of games, we have Wolves, we have Bologna, and obviously West Ham coming up. Is the West Ham game in the League Cup important from a standpoint that it gives, if we advance, it gives everybody more minutes to go around, or is this a throwaway?
Well, I would like to see Liverpool win. I think it's always good, and of course it's a trophy that they won last year. So I think that with the squad that Liverpool have, I think the manager, I think Slot and Klopp, although it wasn't like that in his early days, I think that they want to win every trophy that they go for. And I think it is to the benefit of the squad overall, and as much as other players get game time. I think that what's difficult is that Liverpool's bench, if you look at it on paper, it's strong, but it doesn't mean that when they go out as an 11 to play, that they're necessarily going to be a good team on that particular day. Because it's not like they have a run of games behind them. I think that that's how you develop a team, is a run of games. So there's always that difficulty. But I think he'll make a lot of changes. I mean, certainly, I doubt that he would bring back Alisson even if he's fit. I think Van Dijk should be rested. And I think in the midfield, I think McAllister should be rested. And Salah. for sure. So I would certainly keep out the key players. But who knows? It's the first season. As we talked about with the Forest game, would the manager have rotated more after the international break? The only one that knows the answer to that is Arne Slot himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll get an indication of that after the next international break. So I'm not the manager, but if it was up to me, I would rest all your key players for sure. And then you've got players like Kwanzaa, Jones, who haven't played much. They should certainly come into the reckoning.
Endo.
Endo.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely play Endo.
Mm-hmm.
So
Bradley, Tsimikas, right? That kind of maybe
Bradley Tsimikas. Now, a lot of these players, with the exception of Gomez, have actually been playing through the international break because they played for their countries. So they have a certain level of match fitness. I did actually watch the West Ham game at the weekend against Chelsea, and they struggled. So I don't know what kind of team that Lopetegui will put out. He might be tempted to keep it fairly consistent because he's a new manager. And so he might rotate a couple of players, but he might choose, because he's trying to cement his system, he might choose to put in a lot of the regulars or what he considers to be the regulars at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I expect a tight game. They surely can't be as bad as they were against Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think that Lopetegui is a good manager. I think he's got a clear picture of what he's trying to do. And again, it'll take time for him to implement his system and have it working effectively.
Yeah, and West Ham doesn't have European football, so I can see that. And they have dangerous players. It's not, that's not a team that doesn't have threats, with Bowen and Kudus, Paqueta. They have some players. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Coach, from a fantasy standpoint, I'm closing the gap.
Oh, yeah?
I'm closing the gap. Yeah, you're in third place in our mini league with 314 points. I had a good score this week. I had 74 points. I still did not nail my captain, but Salah had an assist, so it was good enough. And you were at 49 points. I'm 7 points behind you, so 314 points to you and 307 points to me. So we are right there, neck and neck almost, but you're still in third place and I'm in sixth. And
what is the point score for the highest player? Do you know off the top of your head?
Let me see. The person who scored the highest throughout the whole.
Yeah. Who's in first place?
Oh, in ours, it's a British guy actually named Tom Ryan, a guy I used to work with. He's at 370 points.
And what am I?
You're at 314.
Oh gosh, so we're already like 50 points behind him. Wow.
Yeah, he in game week 2 he triple captained Holland when they played Ipswich Town, and he scored a hat trick. So he really used that chip really well.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, that's really the difference. Coach, are we going three wins out of 3 in the next 3? What is your general sense of the upcoming matches and how we're going to do?
Well, West Ham, I feel, is a little bit of an unknown quantity in terms of we don't know what kind of team he'll put out. I mean, he'll certainly be strong on paper. So, yeah, how effective will they be as a team, given that they're not playing together regularly? We have to wait and see about that.
Mm-hmm.
Wolves, I think, is going to be, even though it's away, I think will be a rerun of the Nottingham Forest game. In as much as that Wolves will try to contain and then they will look to break. So that's what I'm anticipating there. And then is it Bologna after that?
Yeah, Bologna comes to Anfield on October 2nd. Next week.
Well, in theory, I think that's the game that you would expect us to win. I can recall them playing Bologna a couple of years ago in a pre-season friendly, which I watched. But I would say that from where Bologna were then to where they are now, that they've progressed a lot because they didn't look like a top team at that point. So, I mean, in theory, Liverpool should win all three games, but as Nottingham Forest showed, I think Liverpool aren't at a point where you can say, okay, I'm 99% certain that they're going to win all three. So, I think that these are all different tests. I think that's how the manager's going to look at it. How will they respond to the different challenges, the different games, the different circumstances?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like he's building his team for the season, and so there's one or two people wondering if Liverpool will be in a position to challenge for the title. We don't really know. I think one thing that goes in their favour is that everybody's talking about City and Arsenal. So if they can get a run going and they do something over a period of time, then maybe Liverpool will come into the conversation because nobody's anticipating it.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. It's interesting. Manchester City, I was just kind of taking a look at their schedule from game week 25 to 38. There's like no,
have a
great run, like fantastic run. No Liverpool, no Arsenal, no Tottenham, no Newcastle. I mean,
well, they play Newcastle next week, but they have a very good run in terms of opposition coming up. So.
Yeah, I'm talking at the end of the season, game week 25 through 38 is when you take a look at their schedule, it's just like, oh my God. And how they tend to finish seasons strong on like a long win streak. Like is that the end of the season? Yeah. I mean, they don't play anybody. I mean, they play teams and we know, anything can happen, but as far as like difficult opposition.
Oh, well, I think they have a run coming up after they play Newcastle where there's a lot of teams that they're going to beat pretty comfortably, to be truthful.
Yeah. Speaking of Bologna, they obviously sold Calafiori. What a beautiful goal yesterday. And they sold Xerxes to Manchester United. So I don't know enough about them, same as you, as far as, who they brought in for reinforcements. But two Italian teams, 2 wins would be nice to see.
Oh yes, yeah. I think Champions League Liverpool just have to get points on the board, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it being one big table, I think a lot of the predictions are saying that 15 points, so in essence 5 wins, 3 losses would get you through. But I anticipate we'll do a lot better than 15 points. Anyway, Coach, thank you as always. Guys, if you want to join us in our fantasy soccer, go to premierleague.com and our mini league code is CHPX42. Would love to see you in there. Coach, thanks as always. And Liverpool fans, thank you for joining us for another Liverpool Reaction, an American LC podcast. We will talk to you later. Take care, everybody.